Thank you very much for joining. We have like, it's like a hybrid model here. So we have virtual and we have live, which is awesome. So hi, Lizzie and Jared. Wait,
Hi,
can you hear me?
everybody.
Yeah, so I'm of the school of always having your mic on because you never know, someone's gonna pop in. It's like I feel like students always say like, "Oh my God, we have to have our mics off." I'm like, but the good stuff come on when your mic is like on. So I'm going to do a quick little introduction of myself. I'm Jody Tatiana Charles. I am the founder of LCG Brands, a marketing and branding firm for high impact, high growth entrepreneurs and small businesses globally. And we focus on not marketing your product or your services. Really don't care about that. I care about the humans because the humans can either shut your company down or it can elevate it. And so I love it when you can focus on your team, you can focus on your target audience, and you can focus on the leadership. And so doing this panel I was so excited because customer service is so important to me in so many different ways. And think about the fact that we've all had great customer service and we tell everybody, but we don't put it online sometimes. And then we've had the horrific ones and you're like, oh my God, I'm telling everybody about it. And so one of the things that it fascinates me so much is that why are the people that have the horrific situations, why are they telling everyone? And yet the ones that those great experiences, they were like, it was great. I'm so excited. The endorphins are there, but yet I'm not sharing it with anybody else. So thinking about that, but also as your company starts to grow, as your business starts to grow, as your department starts to grow, what do you do next? How do you sit there and actually engage with a larger audience? But at the same time, how do you keep the people that have been your bread and butter, the individuals that have like really helped you grow? How do you get those individuals engaged for a longer time, not only for them become your next salesperson and grow and get new people? So today we're going to find that out. So I'm going to do a little short, just the title of the introductions of Lizzie. Lizzie is a customer service success at Thrive, and Jared is a senior manager of technology and services for Markle. Am I saying
Mark
that right, Jared?
Forged.
Mark Forge. And then of course there's Savannah. Yay, Savannah's with me. And Savannah and I got to wear your denim jacket, ladies and gentlemen. And she is the director of talent and human. She's a director of talent at Human API. So here's our beautiful group. But I want to actually have each person talk about what is your expertise, because these guys have close to or a little like by 1 year of a decade-long experience of what they do. It's not where they work; it's what they do is the most important part, and that's why they're here. They know it, they eat it, they smell it, they breathe it. This is what they do. They can't turn it off. Family members are like, I go, stop talking about what you do. This is what they do. This is what they're known for. And so, Lizzie, let's start with you. Lizzie, tell us why you do what you do, what makes it so exciting for you, and also why are you the expert in this field?
Sure. So I lead customer success at a company called Thrive Global. My background has primarily been in customer success, but I also lead customer support and implementation teams as well. And the reason I do what I do is because I really believe in the mission that we have at Thrive. Our mission is to help our customers end the employee burnout epidemic. We've all had a feeling of feeling burnt out at work. And really what my team tries to address is working with our customers to help employers meet their employees in times of need, focused on wellness, well-being in order to reduce burnout and therefore increase productivity of their employees. So customer success, I feel like, is the closest to being to actually there to help change people's lives. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I want to know that the work that I'm doing really does matter, and that the team that I'm leading is there not only because they want to advance their career or do good work, but because they really care about the work that our product is doing in the lives of everyone every day. So that might be a long-winded answer to your question, but
it's a good teaser of what you're doing. So this was good. No, I like it. I like it a lot. Let's keep that. I'm going to hop over to Savannah because Savannah is like still with a human being. So let's stick to the human being thread.
Hello. My name is Savannah, and like I was introduced, I'm the head of talent at Human API, and my company is a SaaS company. We basically create a bridge to sharing health data. So our product is a modern transaction layer, a little bit similar to PayPal, actually, and creates the connections so that people can share their health data more easily. Actually, companies like Thrive might use our product to help their customers connect their wearable devices or their clinical wearable devices to get better access to their software needs or their health information. And this is my third startup. So Human API is my third time working in a company that is scaling from pre-100 to more than 100 headcount. And my second time being pretty involved in helping them build out and scale their customer support and success functions.
What gets you out of bed in the morning to do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think human resources and talent, we're talking about people's livelihoods and where they spend so much time and where they build, you know, half of their relationships that they have in life, and being able to help them do that in a way that's going to make them better and the company better and everyone around them more successful is, I can't really think of anything more important than that. So.
Oh my God, I love these answers. Very good. Oh my God. Jared, you're up at bat, my friend.
I know, it's hard to follow these up.
Let's talk about your company, but also what gets you out of bed in regards of what you do.
Sure. So my job at Mark Ford. So we sell 3D printers, sintering furnaces, basically anything that helps you build and manufacture things how you wouldn't traditionally do so. So we build things from 0 to 100, and we do it in a variety of different ways. A lot of advanced technology. We use software, different materials like plastics, carbon fibers. We also can print metals like copper and stainless steel and things like that. So we're in factories. We're changing things, changing a lot of processes for like, I guess, that next industrial revolution that we want to get to. So that gets me excited. As an engineer at heart, studied at MIT, did mechanical engineering. That's stimulating to me. But what really gets me out of bed in this position, right, is helping people. I really love working with people, understanding their behavior and interactions with products. What problems could come up? What problems that we, incidentally maybe not know at the time, but incur to the customer, and how we can figure out how to solve it. Right? I'm fascinated with the customer experience. I have a lot of experience in service operations as well. But yeah. I thrive the most when I'm talking to really upset customers and then get them to be happy with where we're going, right? They might not be happy with where we're at, but if I can lead them through the process of, hey, here's how we can improve the experience, right? That's what I live for. So yeah, I would say that's my answer.
I love it. No, this is great. Thank you. Everyone, as I mentioned earlier, everyone has had a bad experience with customer service. Everyone has had good experiences with customer service. The bigger the company, the more that I'm walking away from the actual human being of the company. The bigger it is, the more that I'm getting international staff or I'm getting automated staff. So many individuals are so frustrated that you're seeing emojis, you're seeing t-shirts, you're seeing gifs about customer service is dead. Customer service is so dead. In your opinions, in regards of what you're doing, why is it not dead? Oh yeah, full disclosure, I used to work in the media, so I ask questions that are so engaging, maybe, possibly, but I didn't want to sit there and send you questions that were just like kind of flat, but everyone knows it. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard it, but you're in this industry. So why is customer service not dead, in your opinion?
I can start. So as someone who leads both customer support and customer success, I think that really is why we have both functions. Customer success is proactive. We're reaching out to customers in order to drive value, in order to build success plans and co-create success metrics to ensure that our customers are going to be successful throughout the customer life cycle. Whereas customer support is reactive. That's break fix. When a customer is reaching out and they have a problem, Marie on my team who answers that email is helping them solve that. So I think the idea of customer service being dead, that is how customer success came to be, is that customers in SaaS now expect a higher level of service. They expect someone to strategize with them. They need that in order for your software to be successful. So it's crucial to have both customer support and customer success.
And technology that may happen. So we'll just bounce to, let's see, because again, this is the greatest thing about having someone live as well. So Savannah, jump into there, and while we actually wait for these guys to come back. Oh wait, Lizzie, you're back.
We're back.
Okay. So finish your thought.
Yeah, I don't know where I cut off, but I just was saying that that's why it's crucial why we need customer success and customer support to have both a proactive and reactive approach to helping our customers solve their problems.
Okay, Jared?
Yeah, so I would say customer service is not dead, especially with startups and especially with new companies that are doing new things, because those are the innovators that are trying to rephrase how we look at customer service, right? And like Lizzie said, like customer success teams are being built because they want to be more proactive. You have customer experience teams working on the entire journey from getting on the website to being able to lead them on through getting the information they need at the right time to billing to the success plans, right? We're trying to rephrase how people look at customer service because people have higher expectations of what we do as a traditional customer service person or customer support person.
Okay.
I'm in a
Well, this
hardware
is
world, so I am break fix, but I
no,
totally realize
but
the need for that.
your section of what you do is very interesting because I mean, I always sit there and tell my clients where if I press this, what happens? They're like, what do you mean? There's no pressing on my business. I'm like, of course, it's a mental thing where there's a decision tree for every single thing that you decide for your customers. And so I go, how does it work? I go, if I press this, where does it go? And that's where you come in, which I'm going to come back to you on this one, but I'm definitely going to go to Savannah. Savannah, the people are, a lot of businesses are starting to grow and they want to actually like be able to scale in the smartest way ever. How do I find the right person? I go, what am I asking them when I'm interviewing them? And how do I keep them? Because so many individuals are poaching, or a lot of people, as we all know, are leaving their jobs because they're not satisfied. So, in that world of human resources, how do we actually engage in that way?
How do we find the right people?
How do we find? I mean, goodness, 8.5 billion. Am I off on my numbers? But it's like I go close to that in regards of how many people on this planet. And I go, we're living in a hybrid world. We're living in a virtual world where I can hire anyone, anywhere. But how does a small business find a way to the right talent to like actually help them scale for their customers?
The first step that you have to take in any position on any team, but particularly customer support, customer success, is understanding exactly what the role entails and what type of person you need to hire to be successful. And what I mean by that is kind of an obvious answer, but what I mean by that is in support, I think a lot of people equate more bodies with more support, and that is really not the case. And I actually think it's unfortunate because I think customer support is a really critical function that tends to get pushed to the margins in a lot of companies. And it's really hard to find great talent for it because it generally is where people either get their start or they're trying to fill a gap. But when you are in a startup and you're scaling your first customer support function, you have to be able to find people who are willing to go with the flow, have a really strong sense and like fulfillment through problem solving, and they want to be a part of building and scaling the process with you. And the only way to find those people is to be able to chart a path for them. You know, where are they going within or beyond customer support, and what does that mean for them from a career perspective? I think those are the key things to keep in mind.
I love that because I'm a big fan of interns as well as apprenticeships. And there are so many times that people talk about like, once I have them, I know these are the steps and this is great, or I'm just learning this and this is fantastic. But what are some suggestions in regards of finding them? Because one just assumes I'll just go to a university fair. And then now I'm at the fair, I'm sitting at a table that I paid a lot of money for. And yet I don't know how to engage or what to ask or how to find that right candidate. So what are some thoughts in your mind in regards of, again, where are some creative places to find good talent, but also how to engage with them?
We often find really great support talent when we're recruiting for other positions. So there's sort of two answers to this question. The really simple answer is boot camps are a really good place to find support talent. So people who are trying to start their career in engineering, but need a company to take them through that track and support their skill development in that area. Those are really great places to find. And there's also a lot of boot camps and development schools that support in particular underrepresented groups. And so it is also a really great diversity strategy. But I find that we get a lot of really great candidates who they are really bought into the company, they're really bought into the work and the mission, but they just might not be quite aligned to whatever position you were originally interviewing them for. And generally, I don't want to completely generalize here, but often it is that they are a little earlier in their career than they need to be for whatever position they were originally considered for. And I find that if they're open and willing, and if they are really truly bought into what the company is doing, you can get them onto a track that starts in support and then moves on ultimately to the place that they want to go. And those are typically really interesting hires. So does that answer your question?
A great way of like, definitely like getting me engaged, because then like a lot of questions came up, and I'm definitely going now to Jared. Jared, you are a builder. That whole entire concept of like, I go when you're little, you have your Lincoln Logs, you have your Legos, you are a builder, you're like just engaging people together. We have the right team. The right team has now entered the building, and now you are the creator of the products that they're using to engage with the customer. Walk us through, where do you even start with that? Because again, I'm a small business, I'm starting up. I can just, like on a good day, I'm down the rabbit hole of Google to find something. And I've heard these stories over and over and over again. I'm like, I don't know what to even engage with because it's just too much. So where do we start as a small business when we're starting to add in products to help our now brand new hired team to succeed?
So I definitely think that your success is definitely dependent on the other teams you have to work with that sort of hold up the business, right? I feel like in a startup, you have to have that customer focus or customer first culture, because as a team, and especially as a support team, you can only do so much. But if you're not building those relationships with these other teams around you, right, you're going to be limited in how much you can really succeed, right? So I definitely think that in terms of where you start when you're adding in a new product, you have to get into the door even when you're not, close to launch, or there isn't a launch time limit yet. You have to build those relationships with like your high level folks in, development or engineering, in operations, right, in product management, and you have to make sure that everyone has that culture of like looking at, okay, how is a customer going to see this? Like put yourself in the shoes of that audience that you're looking at. It might sound obvious, but I've seen it time and time again. Not everyone does that, right? They assume, oh, like this person's going to be, especially in a hardware startup, right? Some people might think like, oh yeah, they might not see hardware like how I do because I'm an engineer, right? But it's like, really, we're selling to other engineers, so they are thinking just like you. So we have to be able to, prepare them for making sure they have the right content. If they're going to learn some things on their own, make sure we give them the right tools for success on their own.
Well,
you start thinking about.
Not to interrupt you, but I'm interrupting you.
Sure.
What are the tools? So think about this, where I'm like looking to find that tool. So where do I even start in understanding the world of technology that will bring my company to the next level? I want to engage with more customers. You are that engineer that's building things, but you know your world. You could just go online, you know exactly what you're looking for. The average CEO founder has no clue whatsoever. All they hear from the VCs, angels, their other customers, their team, we need to grow. We need more customers to get more revenue in. The ripple effect from there. How do we even engage in finding the tool? What's the right first step to finding or educating ourselves about a tool for a person that's not in this world?
Yeah, and it's a tough question, right? And I think it's dependent on the sort of like that sub industry that you're in, right? I think from my experience, being in a really technical world, and then also trying to get more customers and more people involved, and trying to get our customer base to grow based off of their, maybe lack of expertise in the technical world, right? You have to really get that feedback. Oh, did I start freezing?
Maybe if we just wait a couple seconds, we'll go back in. If anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to have them ready to go. Whoop, they're back. They're back. Okay.
All right,
so Jared goes, I'm so sorry. I'm telling you, it's the rain. You can't have an event when it rains in this town. I'm telling you, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry. Can you continue?
Sure. So I say like it's a tough question. I know in my experience, appealing to the person who might not have that technical know-how or might not know where to start looking. you have to really break it down into a very easy to ask question or simple to ask question in terms of like, obviously there's like cost to it, but there's like a value statement there that you have to get to the core of, and you can't have any, weird terms that you have to put in like layman's terms. And I think that at its core, this is where you have to build like, your, whether it be like SEO or kind of like, build your brand around those things so that people can connect to what you're doing. Because we all do niche things. We all have niche products that we're also doing. But if you can connect it to the core thing that people are looking at and say, man, like I have this question, but I don't know where to start. And they might brush it off. If you can appeal to them and have that question right in front of them, they'll say, oh, I was just thinking that. And then that's where you can sort of lead them on that content path, right? And I think Mark Forge, you've had success doing that because it connects to what our audience is and saying like, how do I build this, right? Or like, how do I make this without, wasting so much time? And then it's like, you can appeal to like their mind about speed, time to ROI, but really you can build this. You might not thought you thought you couldn't build it, and you can build it. Here's a picture of what you can build. People connect that, right? So I think it's different for everyone, but that's how I've seen it to be the big connector to grow your customer base.
How the glue comes together. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So of course now we have hired the right people. We found the right team. We're in the process of understanding the right technology that is going to be great for us. Lizzie's going to be, I'm going to ask a question of Lizzie when she's back. So Savannah, in regard to, maybe you could just like start up on this, where how do you prepare the individuals, like now that they have this position, how do you prepare the individual for getting that right, the relationship building? So Lizzie, the question I was going to ask you, and I definitely would like to hear from both you and Savannah, in regards to now we have the team, we have ideas and concepts of like how we're going to start building the technology for customer service. How do we make sure that they thrive? You have all the pieces in place. How do you guys, between the both of you guys, how do you make sure that the individual that's in place is thriving to make sure the customer is like, oh my God, I am literally going to become the best salesperson in the world? Sidebar, your dog is really good. So laid back. Love it.
Yeah, that's Penny. She's 10. She's very old, so she's a good office mate. So what I like to do when building customer success teams is to start with the customer life cycle or a client engagement model. And the reason why I like to do that is not... Oh, did I freeze again?
She was about to talk about customer
Yeah.
success. I actually went directly to customer support in my mind. She's back though. Do you want to?
Yeah, Liz.
Should I go quick?
Yeah, go for it.
The people virtually can still hear us, so I'll just keep going.
Okay.
So what I was mentioning is I like to start with a customer life cycle, because not only does that help with creating what good looks like for the customer success manager, but it also helps us meet our customers at the moments that they need us. I think the thing that's most important when building out what that life cycle is going to look like is to not think about what we as the company need to deliver to our customer, but instead what our customer needs from us. What are they thinking and feeling during every portion of the customer life cycle? Are they thinking, oh crap, I just made this big investment in this software and now I'm nervous that maybe I'm not going to have the tools that I need? And so what I like to do is to really have this session where we build out what is the customer thinking, what are they feeling, and then how are we going to approach them and meet them in that time of need to be able to create that overall customer life cycle. And then that becomes the playbook for the customer success manager to be able to go and execute upon. And that helps us build out, these are going to be the different tactics and tools during the customer life cycle that the CSM can go work with their customer to do. And then we iterate on that over time. So that helps not only ramp up the customers, but also ramp up the customer success managers.
Beautiful, thank you. Lizzie, you froze on our end, but the individuals, Francine, thank you very much for letting us know. Everyone on the other end is hearing you. So I'm just like, when it freezes, I'm just gonna not talk and just, hopefully Francine, because you're gonna be great for me, just let me know as we go.
Perfect, yeah, I just kept going. So I'll just keep doing
like,
that.
yeah, just like when it freezes, just keep on going. You have the right people, you're building out the technology, you're understanding exactly how to keep the customer engaged. What does this all cost? What's the investment? What's the investment on time? What's the investment in the people that you're bringing in? What's the investment in regards to the dollar amount? Because again, I'm growing, I'm seeing the revenue, I know I have to grow. There has to be a cost to it. I always say actually, no, I won't even say that comment yet. I'll say that for later. So yeah, what is the cost for making sure this is part of my line item? Can you put a number on it?
Well, I think you can look at it in terms of headcount cost, but you also have to think about opportunity costs, that if I don't hire people to renew my customers, then I will have lost the customers that were so expensive to gain in the first place. So I always try to tie my teams back to revenue. If I have a customer success manager working on a $3 million portfolio, then I can actually show that this specific headcount influenced this much revenue. The same thing on the support side is if I can look at the number of support tickets that are coming in, and then also how many tickets we might have avoided by building something like a help center, then I can actually build out what the impact to overall revenue my team is having so that I can secure headcount based on customer need and the overall ARR that our company has.
I feel like what you said was it was great, but a small business that's like, I mean, a startup, small business, individual that I love what I do, but this whole entire business realm is just so overwhelming. How can we sit there and not, again, I always say, don't dumb it down, but how can I make it a little bit more digestible where I can do something today?
So I think determining what is the priority. So in a B2B SaaS world, which is my background, the priority is to get customers and keep them. And in order to keep them, you need to make investments in customer success and support. So then working backwards from that goal to be able to determine the overall impact from a finance perspective is when you can start weighing out the cost and benefits of investing in a team like this.
Beautiful, thank you. Jared, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add also deciding which customers got what level of investment in terms of level of support,
Can you give me more detail on that one?
I mean, so B2B SaaS is also where my background is, and there's almost always an exercise of making sure that you are segmenting your customer base so that the level of support meets the level of the customer. So like a very important customer, for example, might have like a dedicated customer success manager, but the 50, SMB accounts might not.
Gotcha.
And they have more of like a center or like an account alias that reaches more of a team of customer support. But you kind of have to figure out how you want to divide and conquer resources for each of your customers.
Beautiful, thanks. Jared, there are so many individuals when they're thinking about customer service, what comes in their mind is like, well, I call, whether it's my doctor's office, whether it's Amazon, whether it's a local place, I'm getting international or I'm getting robotics. And the robotic part is like I'm constantly pressing 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 to get to a human being. So how do we make that whole entire concept of like making your company global with a global team as well as robotic a little bit more seamless? Because right now there are so many hiccups, and I feel like I go sometimes. Those areas are like when you go to CVS and you just get tons. It's a stream of receipts, and you're like, really, CVS? Like, I mean, look at all these. Like, what?
Yeah.
What's happening here? So, how do we make it seamless for the individual and the customer to engage with your company and not feel like what's going on with this long receipt? I want to be part of you. I want to sit there and feel the robots are listening to me. I know they're getting better, but they're listening to me. And also when I know I'm going to get an international staff member, how are they engaging with the company so that way everything's on the positive side versus hearing any of the negatives?
For sure. And I do know that, I think what's most important to acknowledge is, the elephant in the room, that in terms of how companies will cut costs down, they will look to service to say, oh, let's outsource to, this entity that's based in, name your foreign country that has cheaper labor, right? Customers know that. Customers see all the news articles on that. And when they hear it, they automatically connotate that negative feeling when they do see that, regardless of how well you actually perform in in your outsourced support. So I do think that depending on what your customers want, right? If they want to just be self-sufficient and service on their own, make sure you invest in your help center. Make sure you can lead them through that right path to get what they need in that help center. that might come with some automation and like a chat bot or something, right? But don't try to solve the world in your chat bot. People will also realize when you're putting too much effort into it, and they're like, okay, like I feel like I'm just clicking a series of buttons in order to get to my answer, where I wish I could just talk to a person and get it faster, right? Some people want that touch. So I definitely think that from my perspective, acknowledge the elephant in the room, know what your customer wants. That will involve directly talking to customers and seeing what they actually want in their experience, and then investing in that way, right? So if it is people first, make sure you invest in a few really good, versatile people who can figure out how to talk to people appropriately, right? And know like what things are going to make a customer feel good, or what customers expecting you to know about their buying history, or about their their navigation history with your product, and know how to lead them along in the right path. I think, if they want self-service, I mentioned that. If they want a phone call, right, or if they want to be phone heavy, don't put so much in your phone tree that you're breaking it out into 12 different segments, right? Start simple and make sure you can be flexible on the back end to adapt to what the customer wants. That might mean it's a little more hectic for you to deal with process wise, but if it's worth having that extra customer experience, then I think it's good for that point. When you get to scaling to that next level of 10x customers, that might have to change a little bit, but it's worth the effort on the back end in order to keep your customers happy. Because I've seen it work the other way, where you say, oh, they're so easy for us to manage, and then customers don't reach out to you, and you don't hear the problems. Then you see it on social media.
So what is too much? So you are, again, we're living in the world where we go down the rabbit hole of Google, and we're like, it says to put 50 questions. It says to put 100 questions. What is the sweet spot of when you're designing your bots, or you're speaking to your international team? What is that point of how many questions should I have laid out before they're like, I'm going to get you to a human? And then I go, how many questions before you're at the human internationally? We're like, I'm going to get you to representative in the States, or whatever country that you're in of origin. What's that sweet spot of the number? Because people just don't know. They just kind of like, I'm just going to dump out every question I can think of. And I always would say, like, the questions that they would never ask, you should have. So, but I limit my things to 10. What's a sweet number for you on your end? And Lizzie and Savannah definitely chime in on this one as well.
Yeah, so I love the rule of threes generally. Like if you're putting in a form or a survey, I love to put in I would love to have just like 3 questions. If it's like 2 things that can help you make 2 different like decision trees, and then an open-ended question to get more context, and then send it to a person in order for them to be able to say, cool, I can respond to this. That would be my ideal experience. And I've heard customers say the same thing in my industry, right? For a phone tree, I only want like 1 phone call queue to really go through, max maybe 2. Once you get to like pressing 0, 0, 0, like, and you're still not navigating anywhere, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to hang up.
0 5 times to get to a human, usually.
Yeah. So I don't want 5 different I think 1 to 2 phone trees max, right? And then if you're having a form for a chat bot before you make an action item for them, I would say like 3, I think max maybe 5 questions you're going to get away with. And that's the ideal experience. The further you get past that, the slightly bigger hit to customer experience you'll take.
Lizzie, Savannah, any thoughts? You good?
So this is a little bit of a different angle. I mean, I think Jared's talking a lot about scale as you're getting thousands of customer support questions. The company that I'm at is not quite there. So we're in scrappy mode, right? So we do email-based support right now. We have 1 support rep, and then we have engineers who respond to support tickets as well. So we have the support rep is taking tickets, and if there are things that she can solve, she'll solve for them. And if not, they're being escalated up to our engineering groups. And we're at the point where we're small enough that although this won't scale over time, we're getting on the phone. We're getting right in front of that customer as quickly as we can, even if it takes multiple resources and multiple senior level resources, because customers can. And so that's going to work for us right now. And then as we scale, that's when we're going to have to start thinking about better processes to be able to work with thousands of customers. But for the moment that we're in, it's an all hands on deck that everyone's willing to get on the phone with a customer to solve an issue. And that's kind of cool to be a part of.
Love that. Anna, were you gonna say something?
No. No, that was
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I was reflecting. It was a really good answer. I at my previous company, they did something where everybody who started has to work 1 week a quarter or something like that, or 1 day a month in a customer support seat. And I think it is. I also saw that program get very difficult to sustain because you hire an executive and then you have to tell the executive, like, you have to be in customer support today. And they find like any excuse to get out of it. But I think if you're really vigilant about it, it can be a powerful tool in making sure that the entire organization really understands not only like what it's like to be in the seat of a customer support agent, but also the like storyline of the customer journey. But yeah, so great points, Lizzie.
I love that. Well, this is like the question that I was going to ask. Well, not the question, statement, but also want to get a follow up. In marketing, I always say it's $1 for marketing, it's $3 for crisis management. You should always have the line item ready to go. And so, how do we turn it around? I mean, you've had a customer for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They have something go wrong. How do we turn that around? How do you educate your team to turn that situation from a frown to turn the frown upside down kind of a situation? Because I think that's one of the things where sitting down and doing customer service is like, oh my God, it's amazing because it's trial and error. It's like the whole entire concept of you're at an event. If I'm pitching someone, it doesn't work and I walk away and I go to another person. So how do we turn that around for a team that's had unique, not bad situations, but unique situations? They don't want to lose the customers that they have. The customers have been really, really fantastic. They're like really great advocates, but now something's going wrong as they're growing, little like bumps and bruises. How do we turn that around? How do we educate our team? How do we build the right technologies to make sure that we actually take those like little bumps, learn from them, and then grow?
I mean, I think it starts just from personal experience. Like we've had, I would say at Mark Forge from, when I started 6 years ago, we were like a group of 60 people. And now we're bigger. We're a public company. So I think recently it's probably a different story, but along those bumps, I think what really was valuable was being able to like have the history of a customer pretty visible somewhere. Could be a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be a CRM tool or anything, right? Like I've seen, plenty of spreadsheets with lots of just customer log information. As long as it's readable, as long as you can share it with the people who are in, not only other people in support, but also people in sales and people in what I find to be most valuable is people in product have access to that too, because they're going to be the ones to gear up that next level of product that you're putting out there, or gearing up that next level of, product improvement. As long as that's shareable and readable, then you can corral to say, how do we want to make this, whether it be a process or how do we want to utilize this data? You got to have the data first. So that's, I think, the most important thing. I think the process when you're a startup doesn't matter as much as long as you know the people who need to be involved in order to make decisions to adapt. Because you need to pivot. As a startup, you're going to pivot multiple times in minor fashions once you start scaling, once you start growing your customer base. So being agile in that way is important and cost effective.
From my perspective, I think the biggest thing, if your customers are starting to become unsatisfied or you're starting to see trends and themes, is it's very easy to assume that we know why, because we are working with the product every day. But customer interviews are so important so that before we act, we understand really what the problem is, what might be causing the problem, and how the customer is feeling about it before we go and address it. So I'm a big fan of executive sponsorship programs to make sure that we're forging relationships across the entire business, making sure that our whole exec team is customer centric and customer focused, and that we have relationships at multiple levels within the customer, so that we can always be getting that feedback, always asking those questions, so that we can make sure that we're forming not only our product, but also our engagement model to best suit the majority of our customers. So getting on the phone, asking the question, I think is the right way to go when things start going south.
Savannah, I'm going to add, like, I definitely want you to get your input on this, but I'm going to add a little extra to it. Metrics. We've done all of our work in our due diligence in regards of all these different areas. How important are measuring metrics to see if it's working, and how quickly, I mean, Jared mentioned it, we pivot fast as small businesses, but how important are the metrics? How much should we rely on the metrics, and how fast should we change if something's going right or wrong? Like, what's the deciding factor on that?
Are you referring specifically to like the SLAs that you have with customers, or?
Well, just like, I mean, like you do something, I mean, you want to measure it to make sure it's working. And so is it working? How fast is it working? What should I add? What should I take out? Now that I see the metrics and the paperwork, the surveys that Lizzie mentioned, everything's out there. How much weight am I putting on all these metrics to actually advance my company?
I'll answer this from my perspective, but I'm imagining that Lizzie or Jared might have a more specific to customer success answer. I find that when you're dealing with metrics, you have to look at them holistically, right? Like you can't just take the numbers for whatever they're worth and then act on the numbers. You'd have to take the quantitative data along with the qualitative data and make a really informed decision based on all of that. Something that I've seen done and done really well, particularly for customer support teams, is making numbers. And so first of all, associating everyone with their specific metrics that they're accountable for, and then making their metrics public to at least their team, but maybe even better, the rest of the company. And getting into the habit of that so that it doesn't turn into a shaming event. It is much more of you're seeing kind of the moving average, what that means. You're talking about the data so much more, and you start to understand it a little better and can make decisions that are, like I said, a little bit more holistic and not just responding to. I think it's very, very easy to be tempted to a very bad day, respond very quickly to a very bad day. Yeah. And really what you need to do is look at the whole picture of data and the events that are contributing to that particular day.
Well, I love that because, again, you're focusing on the individuals getting that right talent. And I think that people think about metrics as it's only the product or the service. And it is the whole entire holistic, it's the whole entire concept of every single department measures something. And so this is why this perspective is very important. Lizzie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about metrics within customer success and then maybe leave it to Jared to talk more on the support side. But in customer success, I find it incredibly important to both track leading and lagging indicators. So the number one metric, or number 1 and 2 metric in customer success, is always gross retention and net retention, but that's a lagging indicator. I won't understand if a customer has renewed or grown until they've been a customer for at least a year, and in some cases, if it's a multi-year contract, for a couple of years. So I like to measure teams on both those lagging indicators, but also leading ones. So how many contacts do we have within the organization? Are we multi-threaded? Do we have success plans in place? How many business reviews have we been having? Are we meeting their overall success metrics? So that we can begin to track and understand if that renewal is going to be likely. So I take all of those leading indicators and create an overall health score to be able to give us a direction on whether or not these customers are healthy or not, both from a product usage standpoint, but also from a relationship and engagement standpoint. So I think the question was, is it important? I think it's crucially important to be tracking all of these things. The baseline will change. The target will change of what you're driving towards. When you're a little bit more in your infancy, your targets might be lower. And then as you become more efficient, they might get more aggressive. But the tracking and measuring of them over time, I think, is essential in order to make sure that the changes that you're making within your organization are actually driving towards the outcomes that you want to achieve.
Jared?
Yeah, so I say overall, like, I highly agree with what Savannah and Lizzie has said, right? Like, I think all of those things are very important to get an idea of the experience holistically. In support, you want to have your 2 type of metrics to track, right? You want to have your performance metrics, like how are you doing in terms of replying to customers fast through whatever channel is most utilized, right? We're primarily email support at Mark Forge, right? But we get on the phone as well, so we have to track that. So really like speed, and then and like speed of resolution, I think everything else sort of falls into place, right? In terms of more details in terms of like interactions had on support, or like, length, like call time length and things like that. I think like that helps build the story, but really what you want to know is your performance. So really like speed and how many things are you resolving. And then what's really important is that satisfaction metric, whether that's CSAT, whether that's your NPS. Some people put out a service NPS. Some people use customer effort scores in order to make sure you can track how hard or easy it is for a customer to get what they need. Or they might have something customized. I like CSAT. I think it's simple enough. NPS is a ubiquitous metric I think used across product teams and things like that. But as long as you have that, and I think in your CSAT score or your CSAT survey, right, if you send that out after a case is resolved, right, or if an NPS score or a survey is what you want to do, if you send that out to customers, periodically, you should have some qualitative metric of like rate your experience, like 1 to 10, 1 to 5, however you want to do it. NPS is more specific, but CSAT 1 to 10, 1 to 5, yes, no, that works. And then you should also have some sort of categorical box of like tell us more about that or why, right? If it's short, more people are going to fill it out, and you're going to get a better idea of your population. And that's where you can get some quick context, right, for why people are giving you either high scores or low scores. So you can figure out what to focus on. That can put together the whole story when you're looking at performance. You can say, oh, we're going really fast. That's great. We're solving issues really quickly. But if people are giving you a CSAT score of like 7 out of 10, and then you see people being like, they didn't listen to me, right? Oh, maybe speed isn't as important. Maybe we need to actually take time to really work with the customer so that they understand what they're doing. And then once you are solving the problem, or closing the case rather, you're having a much more confidence in saying, I'm solving this person's problem, right? And then you just adjust, adapt, look at the related feedback, and repeat that process, right? So that's what I've seen be successful, at least in Mark Force and other companies as well.
What I'm hearing over and over and over again is like, listen, listen, listen. I go
Yes.
engage, and like for all of you, like listening to your customers, asking them what is working, what's not working, going making sure that you can implement them if you're able to. Now, what about internally? So this is going to be like my last question before we put it out to questions. Think about the internal. A lot of individuals, they love startups. They love working in a startup situation because I get to wear all the hats. I go, we're a family, you know my name. I'm not just like a number on a social security. How do you keep that, as you're growing, how do you keep that feel around? Like we want to grow our company, but we still want to feel like a family and engaged with our team, so that way they're succeeding within. Yes, you will not be able to wear all the hats anymore, but you will be able to sit there and still engage and grow. So what are some steps that companies should think about when I'm growing my team? I really want to keep my company engaged, where we feel like we're close and we're doing something great in this world. I'll start with Savannah.
There's so many answers to that question. I think the simplest answer, which also might be frustratingly vague, is it really bubbles down to your leaders and your managers, right? Like if your company is getting bigger, you have to focus on the sizes of the teams, the amount of support that they're being given, whether or not they're getting as a manager that has another manager and another manager who reports to the CEO. Is the information from the very top getting disseminated down? And then is the information from those teams getting pushed back up? And how strong are those channels? How well are managers able to articulate what each individual team member is doing and how it impacts the ultimate outcomes that they're going for? I think those are the things that make people feel really good at startups, right? Like they're like, I'm going to work on this project, and I'm going to see how it's impacting the bottom line, how it's impacting the business, and how it's impacting all the people around me. And I think that's what makes wearing so many hats really exciting. So I really do think it boils down to who your leaders are, who your managers are, and then how you're creating these channels across the organization so that there's still a lot of exposure.
I completely agree with Savannah that it comes down to leadership. I would also add that that's something I look for when I hire. I've worked on teams where everyone manages their customer portfolio and they worry about their customers and they work in a silo and they do what's going to help them hit their targets. And that's not the type of team I want to work on. I want to work on a team where customer success managers go and try new things with their customers, bring it back to the team. And I see my role as leader as not creating the solutions, but helping them scale the solutions across the team. And so I try in the interview process to suss out, is this person someone who's going to want to collaborate? And then from day one where they start, it's heavy collaboration. So always making sure that they have a mentor, making sure that they're having coffee chats with people across the team, especially in this remote environment, to make sure that we're building relationships, and then constantly trying to connect people across the organization. If a CSM comes to me with a question, I may know the answer and I will direct them to someone on the team that's their peer that I know knows that answer as well. So I'm really just trying to foster relationships as frequently as I can, and then also bring the enablement requirement to the team that we can all learn from one another. We can all share with one another, because we're all probably facing similar problems, but attacking and addressing them in different ways. And so there's lots of tactics that you can do to foster that collaboration. But I think it like Savannah said, it's with the leaders and then with the people that you hire.
Jared?
Agreed on all fronts. I don't know if I'll say anything new. So
No, this is fantastic. Does anyone in the audience have any questions?
I do have some people online who have questions as well.
Yes.
So
So we always start at the audience first. You good?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, go for
excellent.
it.
So someone was asking about what about things like the metaverse and this kind of virtual reality, person-to-person interaction that's happening online? How is that affecting, or how do you think it will affect customer service, customer support going forward if it becomes more mainstream?
Excellent. Who wants to go for this one?
I don't have a good answer for that one.
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
to learn from all of you.
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it become like close to a blip in our customer base in Mark Forge to be something that they want to see. I think it really just depends on what customers want to see, right? In a world where that becomes more ubiquitous, yeah, we'll have I'm sure there will be a market for tools that come up to assist with that type of plug and play assistance that like any product we want to have, right? I think, yeah, it's really hard to tell, and I think it won't. I don't think it'll take over. I think it'll just be like maybe an added complement to all the other tools that people have in like sort of this omni-channel strategy, right? So it really just depends on where your customers want to be. If it's more social media based, maybe you want to be more in the metaverse. I don't know, but yeah, I think it really just depends on where your customers are already talking about your product, right? That's where you want to be, and if that's metaverse, then use it strategically, use it wisely, right?
Yeah, I'm going to sit there and definitely chime in on this one because in the marketing world, you have to follow the paper trail of where your customers are. So if your customers are on Meta, you learn about it, you engage with them there. If your customers aren't there, I mean, I work with customers around the world, and a lot of them aren't even on LinkedIn. And one would assume everyone should be on LinkedIn. And so it's all dependent on following the bread trail to where your customers are. And once you know they're there, really need to engage with that platform. That was a great question.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. We have a customer. We have a customer in the audience. Yes.
Make sure they can hear you at home. That's all.
Thank you. My question is for products that might have a free option. In this example, I'll use video games. Do we prioritize higher paying customers over lesser paying customers, or even free customers? Or what's your opinion on that? For more context, a lot of video games nowadays kind of have a free to play option just to get people in, and in hopes to maybe entice them to become more of a paying customer. I would assume we want to always go to our customers who are supporting us first, but I just wanted to know your opinion on that, if we would prioritize all tickets. Yeah.
Is this more so to get more customers? I mean, so you're like doing a freemium service to engage the customers as a teaser? Or?
Yeah, I guess to grow your customer base and keep getting more people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it highly depends on the other metrics that you're tracking with those folks who are in that who like buy into like the I'll play for free, because I'm yeah, like by all means get more exposure, right? Get more customers or potential customers in the door. But then when you're looking to capitalize that or capitalize off of that, you need to have some way to identify your cohort that's going to be most loyal to you to give you more like sustained growth. That might necessarily be the highest paying customers that are up front, right? It could be, right? But yeah, I think you want to be mindful of not going to the highest paying customers who might not give you the most data to sustain your business going forward. So
I would definitely
Yeah.
focus that on more of a marketing side versus the customer service side, only because you use that as a metric to gain, just like Jared was saying, like use that as a metric to gain, like, okay, I know these individuals have been highly engaged. Maybe I could sit there and like bring them to that area of I'm going to now charge them XYZ. I go and then you sit there and see like what this group is doing, then you bring them up to the next level. And then once that's growing, then you like just jump right into the customer service area.
I would just highly recommend experimentation. So we had this challenge at my previous company where we didn't have customer success managers tied to our low ARR accounts. But we piloted putting together a segment that was more focused on size of prize instead of current spend. So these are customers that are not spending a lot today, but potentially have a lot of money that they could spend with us. And so we experimented, put customer success managers on that, changed their overall targets to be less gross retention focused and more net retention focused so that they had an eye towards expansion. And we tested out for a couple quarters to see if the juice was worth the squeeze. So I wouldn't say there's like a one size fits all answer to the question that you asked. It depends on your company, but experimentation has always been something that I've leaned on. If you can take a small pocket of those customers, try something different with them, see if it works before completely pivoting the team, then that will help protect the rest of your customers.
So we are just about at time.
Yes.
So I think the virtual community might be kind of being kicked off right now.
Yep.
But we have a 15-minute break before the next session. There is one more question. So if you guys have a few minutes, and those that are online, if you are able to stay on for another few minutes. But for those that are trying to get to the next session, just so you know, over in the Mass Challenge building, we are going to have a session on fundraising, how to nail the fundraising strategy. And then in this room, in about 15 minutes, we're going to have kind of an extension of this, how to have a more inclusive customer support experience for all demographics of people. But the one question that came across online that was someone was wondering about, it's usually, that 5 or 10% of your customer base, that's usually gives you the biggest headaches as it relates to customer support. So how do you deal with the balance of those 5 or 10% of the customers that pay the least but cause 9% of the headaches?
That's a phenomenal question.
I could start. I think changing the mindset around squeaky wheel and more towards how can I innovate with these customers. It's so easy to roll your eyes and think, oh my gosh, this customer again, always. But those customers are probably your innovators. The ones who are pushing you constantly and always poking holes, that's where your best ideas are going to come from. And the ones that are asking those questions, frequently and constant, that's when you start automating. Oh, wait, I've been asked this question multiple times by this customer. Why have I not solved it yet? How can I make this easier to solve? And so that's where you can start really scaling. And so I think a big thing, at least for me personally, is shifting my mindset away from squeaky wheel and more towards this is one of my leaders. This is one of my innovators, because that might be the person that you get your next big idea from.
Yeah, and to add on to that, usually those squeaky wheels are being squeaky because they really care about your product and that they are really loyal to you.
Yes.
So they actually are like pretty valuable to your business. It's just a matter of utilizing them the right way and giving them the opportunity to share feedback in a constructive way, right? If they're frustrated, like that's stuff you need to de-escalate, right? But and if they're not paying customers for whatever reason, right? We need to figure out how to make them a paying customer. And then you have a really loyal customer and advocate for you, right? So,
and I mean, at the end of the day, right, we're all consumers. We've all had a problem before. All you want is to be heard. And so I think those squeaky wheels, we can sometimes, put them aside, but use empathy, listen, right? Use all of those human skills that we all value so much. And that will probably pay you better dividends than an approach where you feel like you don't want to give them the service.
I'll just add flip side of that argument, because those are all very true things. I agree. Really great point about shifting your perspective. I do think, though, there are situations where it's time to really think about what your ideal customer profile looks like and whether or not you actually need this customer around, and if it's time to fire that customer. And sometimes there's just like such a toxic effect getting rippled through the rest of the customer service or support team, and it's time to let them go. And that can be a really empowering maneuver for an early stage business, when you can really just say, like, you know what, no, it's not worth it anymore, and you're not the type of customer that we need, and we're going to shut this relationship down. So I think that is also something that you should consider too.
This is why we love panels, and this is why we love panels that have different thinkers, same industry, but different thinkers in regards of what our niche is, which is fantastic. My 30-second round as we end, what is the playbook? Like I've just listened to this panel. I've gotten so many great tips in 30 seconds each, which is hilarious. I just said 30 seconds each, but in 30 seconds each, what is the first thing in the playbook that the person that is listening to this right now should just start today? We'll start with Savannah.
Reflect on the talent that you have in place and the seats that you're filling with them. Are they the right person? Are they the right seats? How do you even know? Are you measuring the success of those people, those seats? And listening has been a really big theme too, but make sure that you are creating opportunities for them to tell their stories as the people who communicate with the customer the most.
Perfect. Jared, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Evaluate and figure out how to make your customer feedback system the best. And yeah, like Savannah said, your support employees have a really good idea of what customers want or don't want. So if you don't have a good system in place and you need data fast, give them the opportunity to be on the stage and listen to them. So,
Lizzie?
I don't think there's a playbook because it changes so quickly in this industry. But I think that what everything really comes down to is making sure that you're listening to your customer, not just hearing them, and being curious about what they care about when it comes to not only your product, but about their own goals within their organization.
For me, think about any child that you have in your life that they're in elementary school and they're filling in their database and they're just constantly asking why. The individuals, a teacher, a parent that shuts them down and says like enough, versus the principal, the teacher, or the parents that says let's learn together. And so I think that's one of the things where these three individuals are experts in their field for a reason. They found their niche. They love what they do and they love what they do for you. So thank you so very much for taking part. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions of any of us, you can find us on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn snob. You just say hi first. Oh my God, those people that just like sit there and say like, I want to be in. Just say hi first. Remind us like how you met us, and we could definitely answer any questions that you have when you leave here. So thank you. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, Jared.
thanks everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Savannah.
you.